Hi guys, and welcome back to the Young Lawyer Podcast. For all of those newbies listening in, this podcast aims to bring the legal community together by highlighting the available support for young lawyers, discussing different journeys people take, and other important factors that could affect your legal journey. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Young Lawyer Podcast.
Welcome to the Young Lawyer Podcast. It's fantastic to have you on. If you can just start by introducing yourself and how you began your legal journey.
Hi, I'm Kelli Martin, and I'm the Principal Solicitor and Director of KLM Solicitors up in Southeast Queensland. I started my legal journey, finished my law degree and was admitted in 2008, and from there worked predominantly in family law, but I've worked on and off again in personal injury as well. I've practiced in the UK for a couple of years as well, so I hold a practicing certificate over there. When I returned from the UK, I came back into family law in Brisbane, and in 2013 I started working as a consultant for myself in family and criminal defence law. And in 2015 I opened the practice here in Nunda, which has now grown from me and one other person to having 25 employees over 3 offices on the Sunshine Coast in Brisbane and at Cleveland. So in Nunda at Cleveland, and soon to be 4 offices, which is great.
Yeah, so how did you end up working in the UK? How did that all unfold?
Well, I'm a UK citizen as well, so I was born and raised in Manchester until late primary school, when I moved with my parents to the Sunshine Coast. So a lot of my family were back there, and at the time I was in a relationship with a guy that was an English citizen as well, and we moved back, and it was actually in the midst of the recession when I moved back, so I was really, really lucky to be able to get a job, because whilst I was admitted as a solicitor in Queensland, you're not automatically eligible to become a solicitor in England. I had to jump through some hoops and do a professional development element of my what we do as a legal practice course here, and so I did that. The company that I worked for actually took me on as a clerk until I was able to finish that and get the experience level up that I needed, and then I was admitted over there, I think in early 2011 or maybe late 2010. So yeah, it was a really good experience. I did that legal practice course subject in London, so that was exciting. And yeah, worked for a big law firm over there, predominantly in personal injury, but it was a really good learning experience. I was seconded out to some insurance companies in London as well, which was exciting. But yeah, and then I came back to Brisbane, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, that's a bit of an interesting journey. I guess, how does it differ in England to Australia? Is it pretty similar, or?
Well, it's difficult for me to say, probably, because I worked in a different area of law whilst I was over there to where I am now, being family law and criminal defence. But the big differences that I saw, which kind of shocked me, was that court is far less formal. You don't refer to the judges as Your Honour, and you're not required to attend in person regularly, and that was back in 2010. So things have obviously would be completely different during COVID now, but back then court appearances were by phone. You referred to the judges as sir and ma'am. Even in your admission experience over there, there's no formal process like there is here in Queensland, where you are sworn in by 3 judges of the Supreme Court. They literally just send you a certificate in the post. So it's a far less formal process, and I actually thought that was a little bit backwards, because I expected, because obviously affiliation with the English legal system and how old it is and how prestigious it is, I would have thought that the processes over there would be far more formal, but no, it's actually the other way around, which is I found really interesting.
Yeah, I would have thought the same thing too, and that's actually really intriguing that it's completely the opposite. And what is it about the law that attracts you to it or keeps you enjoying it?
Well, my area of law, I think, is my definitely been my passion since I sort of fell into it in 2000. it was early 2006 when I fell into family law. I'd previously done some work experience in commercial law, and that's where I kind of wanted to be throughout my degree. I never even took family law as a subject, which is interesting. So even during my law degree, I didn't know, I had no interest in practicing in family law. But when I was really lucky to get a job as a clerk in a family law firm here in Brisbane whilst I was doing my third year of study, and I fell into it. I never took up family law during my university degree, but I did it in my legal practice course. And I've loved it ever since. I like being able to help people, and I like being able to see people through a really difficult time. And I think both criminal defence and family law allows me to do that. It allows me to give back, where people are really struggling. And, I wake up every day still loving what I do, and it's really interesting, and you learn new things every day, even at my level. So I think if you can find the area of law that gives you that, and it could be different for everybody, but if you can find the area of law that gives you that feeling every day that you love coming to work and you love doing what you do, then, you'll always be good at it. So that's my mantra.
And I find that so interesting. It's pretty common that, something you don't really want to touch on in uni that you've actually enjoyed outside of actually in practice. And you go, oh, you know what? I actually really enjoy this. Why didn't I choose this earlier?
I think I don't think you actually even know when you're in your degree until you get into an area and you realise what it's like in practice. It's really difficult for you to make a decision. And I like now that when I was at university, it was a bit different, but I like now that they're offering those subjects at many of the universities where you can actually get in and do some experience in a firm and figure out what you want to do. And I like that. It's a good way forward for people up and coming in the profession.
Oh, absolutely, because you never know what you actually want to do until you try it. And unless you get out there, you're not going to have a chance.
No, that's right.
And I guess with criminal and family law, they're both, two areas of law that are pretty heavily invested in, doing the best for the client. I guess, how do you deal with the day-to-day if it doesn't go to plan or you don't get the outcome that the client was chasing?
It's all about managing expectations, and that's what being a good practitioner is about. It's one of the things that you really need to learn how to do very early on in practice, especially in these two areas of law. Don't set your clients' expectations higher than they need to be. And you need to make sure that every step along the way you're continuing to manage the expectations. So, you hear about practitioners in criminal defence law that say, I pay me this amount of money and I'll keep you out of prison. It doesn't work that way. We all know in practice it doesn't work that way. So manage your clients' expectations. You could be going to jail. These are the things you need to do to help me give you the best shot at not having that custodial sentence, or these are the things you need to do to assist me to put your best position forward. And make sure you're always engaging your client in every step of the process and communicating appropriately with them. Communication in these two areas of law I've found is the key to good practice, because if you don't communicate properly with your clients, you're going to lose their faith very, very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. A lot of them, you get those personal ads that go, we can get you out, we can get you out. And then they get sent to jail anyway, and they go, oh, well, I just got stitched up.
Yeah, exactly. And no amount of money is going to change what the judge is going to do. We are ruled by precedent and, all of the things that come before us. You can't, no amount of money that you pay a solicitor is going to change what the judge is going to do at the end of the day. What is going to change is preparing your client, making sure your client's giving you all of the supporting material and setting themselves up for the best possible outcome, rather than, focusing on giving them unrealistic expectations and not managing them properly. Because, we deal with this every day. It's raw emotion, these two areas of law. Like you're either dealing with someone's finances, their freedom and their liberty, or their children. And they're honestly, you work hard to build, to earn a living. And obviously in family law, people feel like that's been taken away from them most of the time, or they're being treated unfairly. or, you know, people's children that are the most important things to everyone. And then, you know, in criminal defence, their liberty, their ability to be able to move freely within society, and those things are really important. So, of course, you're going to be dealing with people's raw emotions. And again, it's about managing your clients' expectations and communicating properly through that period. Make sure at every first conference I have with a family law client, make sure they're seeing a psychologist at the same time, because we know that process is going to be one of the most difficult things they've ever done. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a trained psychologist. I know that there are other practitioners that are, but we shouldn't be giving psychological advice or, you know, supporting our clients through counselling through that process, because it blurs our ability to be able to give them good advice. So make sure you've got supports around your clients, make sure you're communicating properly, and and most of all, make sure you're managing their expectations.
Yeah, and I really would like the fact that you've separated, going, no, we're not counsellors, we're here to do a job to, you know, give you the best outcome. I guess, how do you establish that? Because I know a lot of people I've spoken to, they're going, you know, we're actually part-time counsellors as well, we're dealing with the emotion, and then how do you deal with that on top of it?
You're never going to get away from the fact that we have to tread carefully. You have to tread carefully in this area of law, but setting them up from the beginning to make sure they've got that external support is really important. And, you know, remembering that we're not here to tell people what they want. We're here to tell people the way the law works. And, you know, we often hear as family lawyers, it's not fair. You know, it's not fair. But there's no, you can control F in the Family Law Act online. You will not find the word fair in there. It doesn't appear anywhere in the Family Law Act. So it's about, you know, the way that we apply the law to their case. They're not going to like it most of the time. No one comes out happy in a family law dispute. You know, you get people that are happy because you've managed their expectations properly and they've got what you told them they're going to get at the beginning, but no one's truly happy because their finances are going to be split, or they're not going to be spending all of their time with their children, because the reality is, you know, in most circumstances, not all, but most circumstances, they're going to have to divvy up that time. So it's important, again, managing expectations is the key, and I keep going back to that, but it really is the key.
And I guess on a personal level, dealing with that sort of raw emotion on the daily basis, how do you yourself, I guess, compose yourself, or what do you do to help separate you after you leave work?
I know what you're trying to say. Vicarious trauma is rife in family law, so for family law practitioners, and it's a really sad statistic that, you know, there's a lot of alcohol abuse, there's a lot of depression and anxiety amongst family law practitioners. We've got a great collegiate group of people here in Brisbane and on the Sunshine Coast, and I'm really, really lucky to have some fantastic colleagues and friends within that industry where we debrief and talk, and we try and do that in our team as well. Interesting fun fact about me, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder about 7 or 8 years ago. And that post-traumatic stress disorder is solely related to my vicarious trauma exposure in this area, and my criminal defence background as well. And I was lucky to have that diagnosed, and lucky to it was around the time of the birth of my first child. So I was really lucky to be able to sort of recognise there was something wrong and go and do something about it. And I think there needs to be a lot more done, especially in our area of law, to make sure that people are okay and going and getting support. I mean, we've seen some very, very high profile suicides in the last couple of years in the family law area. We've seen some really, really bad statistics with respect to depression and anxiety, and a lot more, in my view, needs to be done to put some supports in place for this particular area of law. And all lawyers are under a lot of pressure. I'm not saying that we're different, but we are a little bit in that we're not only dealing with the pressure of legal practice, we're dealing with people's emotions and some really horrible things that we have to see and hear from clients. And along with family law comes a lot of domestic violence, and we see some pretty horrific things. So I have things I've got in place for me to know when I'm not coping. So I've got coping mechanisms. I've got, things that I do to make sure that I keep my mental health on track. I exercise every day. That's really important for me. I know that if I stop exercising, like recently in the last couple of weeks, because of all the external pressures I've had going on, I've missed a couple of sessions of exercising, and I can see immediately that the difference in me. I mean, everybody's got different coping mechanisms, but just finding those coping mechanisms and making sure you're using them and making sure you're separating your personal and professional life as much as you can as well. Having those supports around you to be able to do that, and talk to your colleagues. We're all here, and I'll take a phone call anytime, any day from anyone in my collegiate group, or even younger practitioners where they want to talk about how they're feeling about things, and we need that. So tap into that. That's my advice to anyone coming into this area of law.
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely agree. I'm in a similar space. I need my exercise during the week, or I need some time out to meditate or just do some breathing, just to give yourself some space from everything you've dealt with during the day or what you got coming up. And I feel like, obviously, if it does get serious, then you need to go speak with someone. And I think there is still some stigma around speaking to someone, like, oh, it's not okay, but it's the 21st century.
Well, we lost a judge last year that here in Brisbane, and a lot can be said to the fact that there is just not only amongst our legal professional practice, but as high as magistrates and judges, that there needs to be more support. There needs to be, it's okay to speak up, or it's okay to talk to each other, and especially amongst young males coming into this industry, because the bravado is still there. I hate to say that, but the bravado is still there amongst young males, that they don't feel comfortable talking, that they see it as a sign of weakness. It's certainly not that. And we need a lot more structure put in place around young practitioners coming into this area of law, especially young males, to say that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to talk about trauma that we're witnessing every day. Every day, it's our job. We witness it. I mean, for police, ambulance, all of the emergency service workers, they get that support. We might not see it firsthand, but we certainly hear about it, and we're dealing with people's raw emotion straight after that. I believe a lot more does need to be done to put that structure in place. I know the Queensland Law Society offers law care, and they will help practitioners as much as they can. I think it's 2 free sessions you get with law care psychologists. But family law, and to some extent criminal defence, I think needs more. And, that's something that I will be advocating for moving forward. But it's an area of law that needs a little bit more support than other areas, in my view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in a similar boat. I'm pushing for it, to branch out and break the stigma, as per se, but not just in law, but in general, because it does affect, not just our profession, but everyone around the profession and outside the profession, because obviously we deal with any number of people on a different basis. And there always needs to be more support.
Absolutely. It's something, I think I even mentioned it I was doing a hearing yesterday in front of a magistrate here in Brisbane, and I even mentioned it in my submissions about the fact that, male suicide statistics are still rife. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to keep talking about and keep the conversation open.
Absolutely. And just moving on to the next topic, given the current climate around, I guess, COVID and whatnot, and the overflowing amount of law students coming out of uni, what advice as an employer can you give to someone looking for work, or how can they stand out?
Get out there and meet people. Attend networking events. Don't be afraid to go and ask questions. Contact people on LinkedIn. Get your LinkedIn profile up early. Don't wait until after you finish your degree to try and get a job in law. There's lots of law firms looking for people at a legal assistant level. I started working in a law firm in my second year of law. I actually went and did a secondment in Manchester in the UK in my second year of law, and then I came back to Brisbane, and in my third year of law I started working full-time for a family law firm. And it was hard. It was really hard balancing study and full-time work. But in my last year of university, I finished 13 subjects and worked full-time. It can be done. You just got to turn your mind to it. And if you really want a job, especially in this climate, I think when I finished my law degree, in the ancient days, it's not too long ago, but there was like a 98% placement rate back then. It's like ridiculously low now. So get out there, get in early, even if it's a part-time job, even if it's working on reception of a law firm, you've got to get your foot in the door. And if you can't do that because you're having difficulty finding a part-time job whilst you're at university, or you simply cannot manage that workload, make sure you're networking, make sure you're meeting people, make sure you're on LinkedIn, and asking questions of more senior practitioners. Most of us are happy to answer them. So, get in there and do those kind of things. Don't wait and expect a job to fall on your lap. Don't expect to just go for jobs straight out of university and get the first one you go for. And don't give up. If you can't get one in the area of law you're looking for, try and get some experience in another area, and it opens doors for you to have something on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess once you get past that initial stage of sending your resume in, what do you actually look for as an employer? Say you've gone to an interview, or whether on a resume, if you've seen them on LinkedIn, like what actually stands out to you?
Getting involved with your university groups, get onto the moot team, or even your social groups within university, having some role in there. I like seeing a good work ethic, like having a job consistently through university. People that sort of stand back, just study, and don't have any momentum with work, I find they probably get put to the back of the pile. And that's not to say that I don't look at them or I wouldn't interview them, but the people that catch my attention are people that did what I did, worked really hard throughout their degree, not only to get their study done, but to have a job, continue to put some pressure on themselves, because it's a high pressure area of work. Like any area of law is high pressure. It's not like a university degree where I know that every university student would say, oh, it's so much pressure, but trust me, it's much more pressure in practice. Keeping that momentum going with your work and your work ethic is something that I always look for. And grades aren't everything. They really aren't. I know the top tier firms probably look at grades more than we do. I'd like to see everyone passing or above, but in reality, just because you've got a high distinction in commercial law doesn't mean you're going to be the right fit in practice. You keep the work going. Don't be too stressed about your grades unless you're really looking for that top tier experience, where they obviously do look at grades as something that's really important, but grades aren't everything. For employers, I know that for a fact. We do want people to be knowledgeable and have the ability to be able to pass everything, obviously. But, in practice, what's the difference between a distinction and high distinction and a credit? I couldn't tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I think I've spoken to a few people now who don't really worry about grades anymore. And
I don't think I've ever looked at it. People always attach them, but I'm not going to if I meet someone and they're much more personable and they've been working hard and they show me that they've been working hard and they've got a 5 or a 4 and the next person's got a 7 and they haven't been working, well, they've clearly got a 7 because they haven't been working. They've had a lot more time to study. But in practice, they don't tend to interview as well, in my view. People that are just focused on getting 7s the whole way through. And look, some of us are really, I've got a photographic memory. I studied really, really not as much as I should have. I studied at a level I shouldn't have. But I still got really good grades. And there's some people like that can do that, but most people aren't. So, don't stress too much about, getting 6s and 7s. Worry more about getting out there, meeting people, developing your social skills amongst this area, amongst your colleagues in whatever area you want to practice in. And, recognizing that it's very competitive. So find an edge, find something different.
Yeah, that's such great advice, yes. And I completely agree. I was working and studying at the same time, and you just kind of do what you can to get past. I'm in a similar boat. I probably could have studied a bit harder, but I did what I needed to do to get by.
Yeah, exactly. I think by the time I finished my degree. I'd already done a science degree, and I was just like, oh God, I need to get out of university.
Alrighty. Well, as we come towards the end of this interview now, I've got a few more questions. If you weren't a lawyer, what do you reckon you'd be?
I wanted to be a doctor. Someone taught me out of it. So I finished my biomedical science degree and I majored in immunology. And I started the first part of my GAMSAT test to get into medicine at university, but I got talked out of it by a couple of people that said, don't do medicine, you'll study for a lifetime and it's not as good as what you think it would be. But it still really interests me. But again, I like pressure. So a high pressure job. Aside from that, I don't think I would do anything else now. I mean, I always liked the pipe dream of becoming a surgeon or a doctor, but I love what I do. I wouldn't want to change that now. So.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing when anyone wants to become a lawyer, especially, is that it's not all it's cracked up to be as, you see in movies or anything, and it's actually a lot of pressure and a lot of paperwork and not so many dirty little back alley deals like they see on Suits.
One of my staff talked to me about something that happened yesterday to Mike Ross, and I was like, who's Mike Ross? I've never even watched Suits. I thought he was talking about a real person. Anyway.
What is something you know now that you kind of wish you knew back when you started?
Well, that's a good question. Being a good lawyer isn't always about being book smart. Being a good lawyer is a sales position as well. So if you want to, being a successful lawyer, if you want to have an edge getting clients, you've got to be a good salesperson. And you're not selling particularly a product, you're selling yourself. So that sounds awful, but learn how to be confident in talking to people. Learn how to be confident in having confidence. Learn how to be confident in yourself, because if you're not confident in yourself, you won't instill any confidence in your clients. And that's really important. And that's something I teach my entire team, is learning how to be self-confident. You're not always going to know the answer to everything, but you can find out the answer. But as long as you're instilling that confidence, you'll have your clients' confidence all the time.
And that kind of flows into the whole brand as well. Each person who represents a firm, or even if you out on your own, you've got a brand to put out there, and you've got to sell yourself wherever you are, basically.
Yep. And I something that I only recognized when I went into practice for myself nearly 8 years ago is that if you're going to get that, if you're going to have that edge, because there's a lot of competition, you need to learn how to have that self-confidence, and there's still a lot, unfortunately, there's still a lot of tall poppy syndrome happening amongst lawyers, and you've got to learn how to shut that out and not worry about what other people are saying, because you're the most important person in your life. And if you don't have that self-confidence, and if you let other people worry you, then that's going to flow on into your work, and it's going to flow on into your clients not having confidence in you, and it's going to have an impact overall in your life and your mental health as well. So it all flows on from each other. But yeah, just learning how to block out people that are clearly not nice, and and they're in every field, I'm sure, but I've only practiced law for the last 14 years, so that's I still see it rife in our community. Just learning as a young practitioner not to worry so much about what other people say, and just focus on you and your career and becoming more confident in yourself.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. No matter what you do, someone's always going to have an opinion about you, so it's better not to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess as we about to wrap it up, what is, I guess, a summary of your main advice you give to someone who wants to start a legal journey, or already just coming out of uni?
Just get in there and do it. It's a wonderful. Don't let other people talk you out of it. It's a great job. I remember to remain ethical. That's another big piece of advice. There's a lot going on, especially in my area of law, or one of my areas of law, in criminal defence at the moment. There's a lot going on amongst practitioners who perhaps haven't done the right thing. Remember to uphold those the values that you swear in to do. Remember to remain ethical at all times, because it's how you can be successful and ethical at the same time. And just get out there and meet people and get in there and do it, because it's a wonderful area. It's a wonderful job, no matter what area you're doing. And if you don't like the area that you first go into, try something else. I did industrial disease law and insurance and personal injury for a little while. And it wasn't my cup of tea, and I started with family and went into that, and then came back into family again. You'll find your area. You'll know when you're doing what you love doing, and just get in there and do it.
Yeah, that's all such great advice. If someone's wanting to get in contact with you to have a chat or just to catch up for a coffee, because I know most lawyers love coffee, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, or I've got so my LinkedIn profile is just my name. And I'm on Instagram as well. I think it's Brisbane Lady Lawyer, which is very creative of me. But yeah, I've got an Instagram that I try to update as much as I can. I probably should be a bit more vigilant with that. But yeah, you can contact me on there. I've got no problems you messaging me on there.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to jump on and have a chat and provide such great advice.
No worries.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to the Young Lawyer Podcast. If you found this content useful or enjoyable, make sure you share it with your family, friends, or colleagues. Let's grow the Young Lawyer community. If I can ask you a huge favour, can you please leave a review or a comment on iTunes and subscribe to the YouTube channel, so that way we can grow the community even further. Until next time, guys.